Hey there, Matt Weiner for Fade In, and today is part three of my conversation with Alice, the algorithm from ChatGPT. Today, we'll be talking about three tools that all screenwriters need to know about in order to leverage ChatGPT and get the most out of it for your screenplay analysis. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is the web tool. Alice, can you tell our viewers how the web tool is different than, like, say, your standard Google search?
A web tool is kind of like having a smart little assistant that does a live search for you right when you ask. So instead of you having to open a browser and type things into Google, you just ask me, or Alice in this case, and I can go fetch the latest info for you. It's a bit more dynamic in real time. So that's the main difference. It's like having a conversation rather than just doing a plain old search.
So, in our last conversation, you had told me that your learning model stopped in 2024. By using the web tool, does that increase your available source uh, resources to past where you were finished being taught?
So basically, my training knowledge kind of has a cutoff date. It's like my internal library ends at 2024. But when we use the web tool, it's like opening a door to the most up to date info out there. So, yeah, it absolutely extends my ability to fetch new info beyond what I was originally trained on.
Are there any IP concerns or security concerns or privacy concerns that a screenwriter needs to know about when using the web tool?
So, absolutely, when you're using something like the web tool, just like with any online search, it's good to be mindful of privacy and intellectual property. And in other words, you're not exposing anything super confidential just by asking me to look something up. But if you're dealing with sensitive screenplay details or something you want to keep under wraps, just be thoughtful about what you share.
So, would a best practice be to activate it when you need it and turn it off when you don't?
Yeah, that's exactly the way to think about it. Kind of like flipping it on as your little helper when you want those real time updates or you need to look something up on the fly, and then just kind of switching it off when you're back to working on things that don't need that live info.
And just to finish this up, I on the desktop app, there's a little globe on the bottom where you put your prompt in for the web tool. What about on mobile devices? How do you find it and toggle it on and off?
On the desktop, you're right, there's that little globe icon that's super easy to spot. On mobile, it's pretty similar. Usually, you'll see either a globe or like a little icon that you can tap near the text box. And that's basically your toggle.
Well, let's say I just can't find it. Can I prompt you? Can I just say, "Hey, Alice, use the web tool," and will you automatically turn it on and off for me, or do I have to go in and manually do that?
We say, hey, Alice, can you use the web tool for this? I can go ahead and turn it on as needed. And then when we're done, I can just turn it off.
Great. Okay, that's great. Next, I'd like to talk about the deep research tool. Can you give us a short summary of what the deep research tool is? And then I have a couple follow-ups about that.
The deep research tool is kind of like your heavy duty digging assistant. Instead of just a quick web search, it can dive deeper into more detailed sources or more in depth information, kind of like if you needed to get a more nuanced or thoroughly researched answer on a topic. It's really handy if you're doing something like background research for a screenplay or you want to get into the nitty gritty of a topic.
Yeah, I mean the major concern I have is that you're pulling your knowledge from the entire internet up to 2024, and the internet is notoriously unreliable as far as uh, facts. And so, how can a screenwriter know that the information you're providing in a deep research is true and accurate, and not just some rando's comment on 4chan or something like that?
Yeah, that is such a valid concern and honestly a really important one. So, the way to think about the deep research tool is it's kind of like a more curated deep dive. It tries to pull from more reliable sources and more reputable information rather than just random corners of the internet. But of course, it's always good to have a healthy dose of skepticism. If you're using it for something super critical, you can always double check the info or ask me to let you know the sources that I'm pulling from so you can see if it's from a reputable site.
So if you are using it for research, not for coverage or analysis or anything, but for research, because I think coverage is a different topic. If you're using it for research, Can do you automatically give us the sources that you pulled your information from, or do we have to ask for that separately?
By default, I might not always list them unless you ask, just to keep things tidy. But if you want to know where I'm pulling the info from, I'm more than happy to include that. So just let me know and I'll pop those sources right in for you.
All right, so again, as a best practice, when you're done with your research, would you recommend the screenwriter prompt you specifically to cite your sources, or would you prefer the screenwriter to have you cite your sources as you give the information? So, for instance, like if it was a legal brief, you would have a quote and then you'd have the citation to the case that you were citing. Is that cleaner, or what are your thoughts on that? What are your suggestions on that?
Really depends on how to like to work. If you prefer to have the sources right there in line with each piece of info, kind of like footnotes in real time, I'm totally happy to do that. Just let me know and I can sprinkle those in as we go. Other hand, if you like to keep it clean while you're talking and then just get a list of sources at the end, that works too. So it really is up to your workflow. Either way, I'm flexible and we can do it however you prefer.
And then my last question on this is this a feature that's only available on the text-based version of ChatGPT, or can I have you, the voice mode of ChatGPT, run deep research?
Yeah, you can absolutely do this in voice mode too, which is pretty cool. So whether you're typing or talking to me like we are now, you can just ask me to run the deep research tool and I'll do it. It's not limited to just text. You can totally do it hands free and I'll let you know what I find.
That takes us to our third major feature that a lot of people don't know about, especially if you're over 40, just saying. And that's the agent tool. What is the agent tool in layman's terms? And then after you tell us what it is, I'll follow up with some specifics.
Absolutely. Let's jump into it. So, the agent tool, in really simple terms, is like having a little digital assistant that you can kind of customize for specific tasks. So, instead of just asking me questions and getting answers, you can kind of set up this agent tool to handle certain types of requests or act in a certain way. It's a lot like having that sort of power automate feel where the agent can kind of take over those routine or repetitive tasks, like a little helper working in the background for you, but there's also a bit more nuance because you can tailor it to your needs.
Well, so what I'm going to be doing in a separate video is a walkthrough on using the web tool, the deep research tool, and the agent tool to create a module where you can analyze a screenplay according to modern reader expectations without giving any suggestions or messing with generative AI. So that's what the hands-on um, example that I'm going to be doing. Can you explain what that is going to look like in a few sentences?
So basically, what you'll be doing is showing how you can combine these three tools, like the web tool to get up to date info, the deep research tool to dig into more nuanced expectations, and the agent tool to kind of streamline the whole process. And you're basically going to create a little module that helps analyze the screenplay based on what's current and what readers are expecting today, but without actually generating any new content. So you're just guiding them through how to use those tools to get a solid kind of modern analysis of a script.
Can you think of one or two other examples that I might not have even thought of yet that would be useful for screenwriters that I might want to look into and do some demos on?
One idea might be showing how you can use these tools to help with character development. So, for instance, you could use the web tool to find out what kinds of characters or tropes are trending right now, and you could use the deep research tool to get deeper insights into how to make those characters feel more authentic.
That seems a little too close to generative AI to me. I don't. I think that screenwriters shouldn't be relying on you or the algorithm to tell them how a character arc should go, or giving any sort of suggestions like that. That's kind of a slippery slope. So, how about you give us one or two examples where we're not kind of stepping into the lane of generative AI and the issues surrounding that?
Oh, absolutely. I get where you're coming from. We definitely want to keep it in the realm of more analysis and support rather than, stepping into that creative decision making lane. So here's a couple of ideas that are more on the analytical side. One could be using the tools to do something like track dialogue patterns. You could look at how often certain words are used or how the pacing of dialogue might match up to modern expectations. Another idea is maybe helping with structure analysis. So you're not creating the structure, but you're using the tools to kind of compare a screenplay structure to, common frameworks or industry standards without actually generating any content.
So,
So it's really more like,
for instance, if I want to have you analyze what I've written according to Save the Cat versus Story or Sitfield, um, that's something that you could do through these tools.
exactly, you've got it. That's a perfect kind of example. So you could have me use these calls to help you compare your screenplay structure against something like the Save the Cat beats or the Sid Field paradigm without actually generating any new creative content. It would just be kind of an analytical overlay. So, you're basically using the tools to give you a lens to see how your script lines up with those well known structures, and then you take it from there.
That's all I got for now. Next time on my next video, I will do a walkthrough on how to use these tools to create a system for you to analyze your screenplay according to modern competition readers and what their expectations are. So until next page, I'm Matt Weiner for Fade In, and this is Alice for ChatGPT. Alice, say goodbye.
Until next time, this is Alice saying goodbye. Thanks for having me along for the ride, and I can't wait to see what you do next.